Good afternoon, everyone. So we have established that video games are sticky and that they're a form of entertainment. Now, no matter what hat you wear, if you're a brand, an educator, an influencer, a corporate, how can we utilize games to really shine a spotlight on topics like the SDGs and perhaps mental health as some examples? Well, I have the expert right here with me. Kay, good afternoon. You are a digital futurist on a mission to help young people thrive in a fast-changing online world. And your background includes creating immersive AR and VR experiences and mobile games, mainly focused on ocean pollution. And you've partnered with the UN Environmental Program, Meta, and Apple. You're also the founder of MeshMinds Foundation, which empowers thousands of digital creators across Asia Pacific to build and deploy interactive and immersive experiences focused on protecting people and our planet. So let's set the scene. I think we will want to talk a little bit about what playing for the planet is. Please tell us more about that as a member.
Thank you so much. It's really awesome to see so many of you still here. So thank you so much for being here. So much like our amazing MC, I have 2 kids at home. And I also feel that, like, goodness, they're spending an awful lot of time in these amazing worlds. Wouldn't it be so cool if they could spend some time playing for the planet? And what that means is that they could actually be learning about sustainability, climate change, whilst they're playing. So I'm a big, big believer in meeting kids where they're at. In terms of when I ask them to, for example, watch a documentary with me about, sharks and stuff, they're like, oh, why? Why do I have to do it? I don't want to, it's so boring. But if I ask them to sit down and play with me Hungry Shark, where they can embody the shark, oh, they're right there and they want to be there with me.
Love it.
So that is kind of like setting the scene of like the why of I got into this, but Playing for the Planet Alliance is an incredible organization, an initiative set up by the UN. So hundreds of large-scale and very small-scale studios from all over the world are invited every year to take part in the Green Game Jam. We are all part of a network as well, so I get to be in the same room as, for example, the CEO of Cybo, the creators of Subway Surfers, and I'm there being like, I can learn from them what they do for their green activations every year, and then I think, oh, I can share what I'm going to do, and then we all compete against each other for the Green Game Jam, which is very much around, for example, Subway Surfers being like, hey, we want to get the players to get behind the ocean this year, so we're going to do an underwater version of Subway Surfers. That kind of activation then gets played by millions around the world. And if you haven't heard of them, Planet Play, to riff on what Dan and Ringo were just saying, they are connecting brands into these types of games, giving you the same opportunities. So instead of, you could totally be in Mobile Legends, but you could totally be behind a green game jam as well in exactly the same way.
That's so fabulous. I bet the studios and creators look forward to this every year, right? This is so impactful. I want us to also now explore about MeshMinds and how you've harnessed the power of entry points like the metaverse through AR, VR, to drive a conversation around the protection of traditional Asian culture, as well as engaging Asian youth audiences actually, on actions that they can take around sustainability. Can you elaborate a bit more?
Absolutely. So using immersive tech as that really important entry point, I think engages people on a whole new level. In relation to that, we worked with, for example, the UN on Beat Plastic Pollution, which was a series of AR games on Instagram. So just tracking the end of your nose, you stare into your mobile phone and you see the polluting plastic. And we wanted to connect the gesture that we want people to do in real life, say no to single-use plastic when they see that polluting plastic on their screen. But then when they see the reusable, yes, I want that one. And every interaction that you get gets a tick or a cross, and it gets a level of points, and then I can then challenge my friend Lucy to be like, I got 50 points on my Beat Plastic Pollution game, how about you? We managed, with Meta's help, to reach 21 million people, with 1.2 million people actually playing along and pledging. So that was like, just shows you the scale of these types of activations, because Instagram has such a humongous audience, right? Others, as you mentioned, in terms of culture, we also worked again with Meta as well. So they wanted to say, like, we want to breathe new life into traditional art forms. But, you know, how many people know about traditional Korean dancing? How many people know about Taiwanese tribal songs from Taiwan? But we were paired with these incredible traditional artists to then bring them to life through augmented reality and virtual reality experiences. So again, I think my children would run far in the other direction if I tried to bore them senseless with like, hey, let me make you listen to this Taiwanese song. But when I was able to actually cast her onto our living room table and say, look at this, you can make her as big as a house, and you can dance next to her, or you can make her really, really tiny as well. They're like mesmerized by it all.
I'm loving this. I'm hoping that the studios, the music studios, watch this and get some fabulous takeaways. And I really like the earlier panel talked about, fireside chat talked about meeting your community where they want to be met. And I think you've done that with so many of your activations. You know, we have lots of brands represented here, and we want to give them some hardcore examples of how brands can engage via games. And you're doing so many interesting things around SDGs. Can you give us some more examples? I'm loving all your examples. And I love the animation too. So please, any more examples about campaigns or initiatives that you'd like to share?
So I'm really old, right? And I see some maybe other fellow ancient people in the room. I wonder how many people remember 2007 Free Rice. Right? Free Rice was this online game, and I just want to kind of go back to that historically, because I think that was one of the kind of like early examples of like brands and sponsors getting behind a game for good, right? So for every single question that was answered correctly, all of the sponsors of Free Rice would then donate monies to allow 10 grains of rice to then be donated via the UN World Food Programme. On its first day when it was launched, it had just 830 grains of rice. To date, it has, goodness, what was it? They've donated 10 million meals to date, and it's still going, would you believe? I was just kind of looking it up the other day, like, wow, it's still going. So I suppose that was kind of like an early kind of example of like brands getting behind gaming for good. But then more recently, I don't know if you've heard of a game called Nitro Nation. They collaborated with an amazing an electric car company, and every single car that you then bought with that skin and etc. would then gather funds to be donated to their chosen charity. Other kind of like, it's not necessarily climate change stuff, but kind of more relaxation type of, games for kind of well-being. Alo Yoga has just launched in Singapore, right? Massive yoga brand, etc. They've had 118 million visits to Alo Yoga on their sanctuary on Roblox, where, you might think Roblox is full of people just kind of going around shooting each other, battle to the end. But actually, you can go inside this sanctuary. You can learn about yoga. You can do a meditation. And they have got so many people behind their brand who are then going to be their brand ambassadors far into the future, right? And then you have games kind of like, I would say, like more that are environment light, maybe, kind of like Subnautica. They're kind of like, they don't necessarily give you loads of climate change stuff, but they have like these kind of eco-destruction zones where you can be like, oh no, why is the ocean, all destroyed there? And then you have others like Civilization 6, and you have others like Terra Nil, which only launched, I think, in 2023, which are really hardcore environment games. So that's what I would really love to see. So when we see people like all of those brands clambering around to be like, I want to be inside Mobile Legends, I would love to see those same brands being inside Terra Nil.
Okay.
Terra Nil being like, you are, totally being able to restore environments, and it's got a very hardcore, climate change message, etc. But again, with all of these things, I think there needs to be a very strong balance between entertainment and education.
Sure.
So I think the ones that really, really get it right, I think Terra Nil is one of those ones where it's like, it's not shoving it down your throat. The gameplay is super fun, but you're also learning at the same time. And I think that that's where learning through play, that the magic can happen.
Okay.
So you're really meeting those gamers where they're at. They're having a great time, they're learning something at the same time.
I think we just coined a new term, hardcore environmental games. Forget first-person shooter games. Remember hardcore environmental games. Just very quickly on Roblox, and we won't dive into this, but actually Kay she launched one of the first sustainable urban farming games in Roblox in 2023. And I also love that I found out when we talk about games for mental health, that there are over close to 200 titles of agricultural games, even more maybe. So it's very calming, isn't it, to watch your tomatoes grow?
Exactly.
It is.
I don't know if anybody's heard Grow a Garden, right? In Roblox, that surpassed 20 million concurrent users, right, over the weekends and that kind of stuff. The reach is incredible. So yes, it's definitely, Roblox is not all about just shooting people until the end. I think there's a growth in these types of kind of relaxing games, more kind of games that make you think, or kind of serious games, that kind of stuff. These things have been around for a while, but I think that they hopefully will gain more through the Playing for the Planet Alliance and green game jams and more light being shone upon these things. So when I did Sky Farm Island, it was the first ever, it was before Grow a Garden, and to date we've had over 250,000 plays. Also, we brought it back to the real world because the Green Game Jam that year was like, please connect gameplay with real-world action.
Yes.
So then we partnered with 20 urban farms across 12 countries, and they were all promoting it as well to their young audiences who were coming to their growing workshops, etc. So can you imagine their minds when some of them, especially these early teenagers, are like, oh, why do I have to go to the boring urban farm again? But then this week it was like, hey, but they've also got this game that you can play which teaches you all about urban farming in Singapore. So you can take all of the things that you're learning from the workshop today and go home and grow it at home.
I love it. And I think I told you in our conversation that there's this fabulous woman that is, she was a film director actually, a Canadian, and she grew up in Canada, and as a little girl she would go out in the forest and collect leaves and acorns. And nowadays our kids are this term nature deficient, there's a nature deficit. And so she created a game where you level up in this and you play and you're going out and you're collecting things, but when you get to the highest level, in real life, a tree is planted. Mm-hmm. And I do love that bridging of action within the games and then outcomes for the world, for the planet in a positive way.
Yeah. In fact, this year's Green Game Jam was all about that in relation to raising charitable funds. So last year was real world impact evidenced by photos of kids actually growing and growing their own vegetables, that kind of stuff. This year it's all about, can you actually raise money for these chosen charities? So I hope next I know the theme for this year is from reefs to rainforests. So if there's anybody who in the audience who is a brand who's like, oh, we want to get behind the reefs, we want to get behind the rainforest, all of the Green Game Jam participants, which again are hundreds of studios from all around the world, from large to small, even Tencent, Wooga Games is up there as well, alongside Cyber, etc. They will be doing huge activations. So if you want to get on board, now is your chance. And it's all backed by the UN.
Okay, this is brilliant because in a previous life I was a marketer, and at one point there was an edit that we all had to have a portion of our marketing spend on CSR, and I think a lot of brands struggle. What do I do? What is different? What can I do that's different and meaningful? And you've just given a whole bunch of people like a fabulous, unique idea to really amplify their brands, like in a very different way, right? And do good. Right, come up with a different CSR strategy. We still have a few more minutes. I wanted you to also talk more about your advocacy work about Ocean X, right? And the first ever immersive media experience in the ocean, a hackathon. Please elaborate on that.
So I don't know if many of you know about Ocean X, but it's the Ocean Explorer is the world's most advanced marine research vessel. And Ocean X is set up by the Dalio family, and they have actually just moved the boat to Singapore and going to be building out their office here for the next 5 years. And I was very fortunate to be part of their hackathon series, the first ever one. They've now done 4, and they've got loads planned for next year. So the premise is, how can we harness the power of immersive technology to really promote ocean literacy, really innovative ocean education? So could we think about using the Ocean Explorer boat and actually, when they are not doing science missions, and those science missions, feeding information into the world's science laboratories, films that go into Blue Planet, David Attenborough, all of that stuff, they have transits between places. Could we actually have those transits filled with the world's scientists, educators, artists, and technologists to then come together to create ideas for immersive and interactive experiences for the ocean? So that's what they're doing. And I say, if anybody is interested, you just need to go to their website. They have a leadership immersions page. And if you know anybody who is an artist or a technologist who wants to be part of one of these hackathons, you can just sign up and away you go.
Take me, that is just fabulous. And it's in Singapore now. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, I'm signing up afterwards. So looking ahead, one of the big target audiences for a lot of brands, thinking way ahead, is Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha, by the way, no need to ChatGPT this. It's like those born from 2010 onwards now, right? Looking ahead, what would be some of your key objectives for reaching Gen Alpha? What should what should we be thinking about to reach Gen Alpha?
I think, and I'm sure that, lots of people have already spoken about AI during the conference, etc. So I think that's one of the things that really does excite me, actually, kind of AI-driven mascots. So you can imagine whether that's an augmented reality mascot, whether that's something that's on a screen that you can kind of interact with, become that mascot. You can start to have conversations with those types of little digital companions. But imagine those digital companions being powered by all of the Ocean X data, for example, and all just the science. So it's not going to give you some crazy machine hallucination. It's just there to tell you everything you ever wanted to ask about the ocean. Your favorite sea creature, why is the ocean in trouble, what can we do to help it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that, and that obviously for brands as well, there's a potential where you could be like, ooh, I could sponsor the creation of a mascot, and then that mascot can also be talking about why my brand really wants to get behind and love the coral reefs or the rainforest or whatever it is,
Brilliant. I love that. So I've got time for another question then. Are there any innovative projects or partnerships that you're working on that you can talk to us or tell us and reveal that you're super excited about?
So I think that is actually one of them.
Okay.
So I know that Ocean X is definitely harnessing lots of amazing AI character creation, all that kind of stuff. We're also thinking about how you look at data visualizations. So instead of looking at graphs on a flat page, how do you make a 3D kind of experience of that, and then be able to kind of talk to people about the science behind it? So this is ocean salinity, but in 3D. Others would be kind of like huge LED screens that are very immersive, kind of like huge curved screens that you don't need a VR headset to kind of go and experience this extremely 180-degree kind of ocean that you can then interact with. Again, using gesture-based interactions. So just kind of waving your hand over like a sensor. You might be able to grab a little piece of food, and then the little digital whale is going to come and eat from your hand. There's all sorts of these very cool gesture-based interactions, which are, you don't need a controller. I mean, you need to get out of the thought process of having to see a game as kind of having to, push buttons with your thumbs.
Well, you're also making me think about accessibility.
Totally.
This is fabulous for
That's right.
Those.
That's right.
Yes.
And so not only that, but also, coming back to the AI part, it's like, think about how inaccessible some of the world's information is to people who don't speak English.
Right.
right?
Right.
So now we can bring all of the amazing ocean-focused work that they've done to people in Vietnam, to people in Uzbekistan. It doesn't matter. And so diversifying and including all of those people and diversifying that message is super important. And through AI, we're going to be able to get there.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Kay Vasey, thank you so much for giving us lots of fodder to think about. I hope the brands and the corporates and any of us got a lot out of that. Thank you so much, Kay.
Thank you.
Thank you.